All right, Shabbos, good morning. Let us begin. Baruch Hashem, to thank all of our sponsors for this morning's share, to thank our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Elul, Shani and Avram Kelman for dedicating all the Sherman Drushos this month in honor of the engagement of their son Yechiel to Alana Thalik and in memory of their parents, Jerome and Bernice Kelman and Alexander and Federica David. To thank Barak, Maya, Sandy Hoffman, Dora Limas, and Avi Malamed for dedicating the Shurim this month in memory of Ruvain ben Emmanuel. To thank Ayala and Sarah Steinberg for dedicating the Shurim this month in Schus of Refuah Shalema for Shulamis Bas Susha. The Daf Yomi for dedicating the shir this month in the Schus of Refuah Shalema for Yehuda ben Michal. Our week of learning sponsors, Jeff and Karen Cohn for dedicating the shurim this week in commemoration of the yahrzeit of Jeff's mother, Eleanor Cohn, Elka Bas Binyamin Tzvi Zichrono Livracha. And our day of learning sponsor, Alan Wiseman, in memory of his wife, Rita Ruth, Rivka Rachel Bas Zechariah Zichrono Livracha. We hope the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshama will have an aliyah, and the family a nechama. And also with that, let us begin. We have a lot to do today, a beautiful, beautiful daf ahead of us. Today's daf is Ayin Ches 78, but we have a lot to do still on Ayin Zayin Base 77b. We left off in the widest lines. In the widest lines, the second to last line. I'm sorry, the second line in. Second to last line. Second line into the widest lines. So Gemara says, Machros Rabbi Yochanan, Hizara mizivuve bali ras. Most remember again in yesterday's daf, so we ended off with a discussion regarding ra'ason, which the Gemara identifies as a type of parasite, which embeds itself on the brain membrane. And again, the Gemara described in great detail how one has to be careful with removing that particular parasite. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan said, be careful with the flies around a person with ra'asan. Remember again, we said yesterday that one of the simanim, one of the signs that a person is afflicted with ra'asan. Remember again, we had teary eyes, drooling, and flies around the individual. So the Gemara said, be careful with the flies around a person with ra'asan, for those flies ultimately again could communicate the disease. Rabbi Zera lo haviyase bezeke. Rabbi Zera would not sit downwind. Wouldn't sit downwind of someone with ra'asan. Rabbi Lazar lo ayli ba'ale. Rabbi Lazar would not go into the tent of someone ultimately again who had ra'asan. Rabbi Amr Rabbi Asi lo havi achli mi bei diahi mavua. Rabbi Amr Rabbi Asi would not eat of the eggs, right, that came out of the same mavui, the same alleyway that someone with ra'asan was afflicted. So Rabbi says, so all of these rabbanim took different measures in order to protect themselves from ra'asan. Rabbi said, listen to this. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, michrich b'hu. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, at the end of the day, the Gemara says, michrich b'hu. Now, Rabbi said, what does michrich b'hu mean? If you look at Rashi's on both sides over here. So if you look at Rashi on the right side, it's the last two words, michrich b'hu, now top of the left side. Nidbak etzlam b'shasha osik batorah u'mashivan etzlo u'muftachu shetagin hatorah alav v'lo yazik. I will say this is so beautiful. The Yeshua ben Levi, he was not afraid to be around people with ra'asan. In fact, what he would do is he would make sure to remain close to them because he felt confident that his Torah, the merit of his Torah, would protect him from any kind of disease. I will say, absolutely amazing, isn't it? Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was so confident in the power of his Torah, in the protective powers of Torah, that he felt totally confident being around people with ra'asan. He said as follows, Amar, Ayeles ahavim v'ya'alaschein. Shabbos say, the pasuk over here, the Gemara is writing in Mishlei, is a metaphorical reference to Torah. Torah is ya'alaschein. Torah ultimately, again, causes a certain amount of favor to devolve upon a person. So first of all, what this is saying about Torah is when a person learns Torah, just the act of learning Torah fundamentally changes who you are. It changes me as an individual. And how does it change me? It endows me with a sense of chen, with a sense of favor. And that's both internally and externally. When we engage, part of the concept of kvias itim, of setting aside time to learn Torah each and every day. It's not about acquiring knowledge. I would say in general, learning Torah is not about the acquisition of knowledge. The acquisition of knowledge is a byproduct of learning Torah. The reason I learn Torah is because Torah refines me as a human being. It makes me a better person. I remember, I don't remember, I understand, I don't understand. The act of engaging in Talmud Torah, by definition, has refining qualities. That's what it means when it says chen, yalas chen. So the Torah gives me this favor, this chen, changes me as a person. I will say, which is so incredibly important, because sometimes when we learn, right, and we don't retain, we become so frustrated. And especially, again, we experience this often in Daf Yomi, right? I try to recall what happened yesterday. What happened yesterday? I don't. It's like a blur. It's like a blur. It's like a Torah tsunami hit me. I don't even know what happened. But it's okay. It's obviously I should try to retain also. But let me say, the act of learning refines me, which I will say tells me something else. That if the act of if learning Torah doesn't refine me, I have to look at then how I'm learning. Maybe I'm not learning in the right way, right? Maybe I'm not paying enough attention. Maybe I'm not present enough. Whatever it might be, if it doesn't change me, I have to look at the process. So Rabbi Shimon Levi said like this. He said, if Torah endows a person with chen, with favor, then certainly it could protect me from Ra'as son as well. Therefore, Rabbi Shimon Levi felt totally protected against the effects of Ra'as son when he, as a result of the Torah, he was learning. So Rabbi say that's the end of the Ra'as son sugya. That's it. Rabbi say, now what I do want to point out is there is a very important lesson not to be learned from this Gemara, which is obviously we don't place ourselves in makom sakana. We do not place ourselves in dangerous situations with the expectation that our Torah is going to protect us. Torah does protect. Torah absolutely protects. But you don't go out, put yourself in a compromised situation with the expectation that Torah will protect. What we're going to see is Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was a different kind of person. Now, we'll say, watch the Gemara now. Now, we'll say, get ready for this Gemara. Ki avashachiv. Now, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is about to die. He's about to die. Amrle lemalach hamaves zil avelei reusei. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded the malach hamaves, go to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi and do whatever he wants. All right, in other words, yeah, he's going to die. He's going to die. Say shalom aleichem. To him, introduce yourself. You're about to take his neshama. Do whatever he wants. Azul is chazile. Malach hamaves appears Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Amrle ichvi li duchtoi. So we'll say, watch this. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says, I have one request. What's the request? Before I die, I want you to take me to Gan Eden and show me my place in Gan Eden. Right? I don't want to take it. What is it? Sight unsold? Sight, how does it? Seen what? Sight unseen. Good. Right? I don't want to take it sight unseen. Right? Take me to Gan Eden. Take me to Gan Eden. I want to see. I want to see my portion. Okay? So it says this. Amrle l'chai. So what does the Malach HaMaves say? L'chai means okay. After all, he was commanded, Amrle, havli sakinach. So let's say, Rabbi Levi says to the Malach HaMaves, give me your knife. Give me your knife. Apparently the Malach HaMaves will say, this is not like a Grim Reaper knife, right? In other words, that apparently the Malach HaMaves has a knife. That's the knife, so to speak, not literal, but that's the knife that he uses to take the neshamas. So Dilma, mivasli ba'archa. Because Rabbi Shimon Levi says, I'm afraid that what's going to happen? Maybe you're going to scare me in the journey. And I'm going to die along the way. So what Rabbi Shimon Levi is saying to the Malach HaMaves is, give me your power to take life. So number one, take me to Gan Eden. I want to see while I'm alive. I want to see my portion. And give me your knife. Give over to me your power to take life, so that you don't accidentally take my life over the course of the process. So you have Nehele. Ultimately, again, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. So Malach HaMaves complies. Kimat lahasam. So I'll say they get to Gan Eden. Listen to this. Daile kamach vilei. So I'll say, so what happened? So apparently Gan Eden is a gated community, right? It's a gated community. So what happened? So the Malach HaMaves lifts Rabbi Yeshua up over the wall so that he could look into Gan Eden and see his portion. So what happened? So what did Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi do? Shavar nafalahu gisa. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi made a run for it. He jumped the wall, and he made a run for Gan Eden. Rabbi say, what Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is looking to accomplish is entry into Gan Eden without going through the process of death. Death itself is a quote-unquote difficult experience for the neshama. There's a transition. There's a transition between this world and the next. There's sometimes a waiting period with entry into Gan Eden. For whatever the reason, Rabbi Shimon Levi decides he wants Gan Eden, but he wants it without the process of death. Without the process of death. So the Gemara says as follows. Dovi, Refuah Shalema. So good, Baruch Hashem. Welcome back. Baruch Rofei Cholim. So the Gemara says as follows. So he makes a run for it. He makes a run for it now, and he decides to go ahead. That's it. He's going. So what happened? So this is incredible. So the Gemara says, Nakte bekane diglime. So it happens to be that the Malach HaMaves had grabbed a hold of a corner of Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi's cloak. Grabbed a hold of it. Amrle, b'shvuasa delasina. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi says, I swear by God, I'm not coming back. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi says, I'm not going back. I'm staying here. I'm staying in Gan Eden. Samar Kutshabrichu, the Imam Shalom said, so just I want to point out again. This is going to have to be one of these gemaras that we come back to, because I'll say this is what is unfolding over here is something absolutely dramatic, But I will say again, I just want to point out, just like on a basic level, what the Gemara is also highlighting to us is sometimes in life, if you see something you want, you have to make a run for it. In other words, you have to jump the wall and you have to run. Because at the end of the day, great things in life don't come to you. Accomplishment in life doesn't come to you. And accomplishment often comes with only after some level of really pushing yourself, self-sacrifice and exertion. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi sees in front of him Gan Eden. And what does he do? He makes a run for it. And I will say, even when you make a run for it and you jump the wall, you scale the wall of accomplishment, what happens? There's always something holding you back. Here it happens to Yeshua ben Levi. What's holding him back? Little detail, the Malach HaMaves. Right, the Malach HaMaves. Because in life, whenever you want to accomplish something, there's always something holding onto your cloak and pulling you back. That's just the way that it works. But Yeshua ben Levi says, I swear, I'm not coming back. You always say, why? Because when you want to accomplish something in life, and you make a run for it, and you start going, and something's holding you back, all too often in life, what happens? Something's holding us back. Let's be honest. The moment something holds me back, what do I usually do? I give up. What does Rabbi Shimon Levi do? I swear I'm not going back. Redoubling my efforts. A rededication to this process. I am not going back. I will accomplish. What does the Chadash Baruch Hu say? So this is the Amr Kuchabrichu. So what does Hakadosh Baruch Hu say? Well, let's look at Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi's life. If Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi never made an oath that he did not comply with, in other words, if Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was always a man of his word, whenever he swore something, he upheld his word, then I'll let him uphold this oath also. If he didn't uphold his word, then I'm not going to let him uphold this oath. In other words, he swore, I'm not coming back. Okay, so let's look at life. When you swore to do things throughout your life, did you do them or didn't you do them? If you were a man of your word, I'll let you stay. If you weren't a man of your word, you have to come back. And I will say ultimately again, the Gemara doesn't say it explicitly, but Rabbi Yeshua was a man of his word. See, Rabbi say, when you honor your commitments, if you say I'm going to accomplish and you don't back down and you go, then what happens? You have siyata d'shmaya. You have incredible divine providence to help you accomplish the things you need to accomplish. If you talk a lot about what you're going to do, but I never actually do it, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, if I'm all talk and no action, I don't have siyata d'shmaya. I don't have divine assistance. So I both say, this is what's happening in the story. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi wants to see his portion in Gan Eden. That portion in Gan Eden representing life accomplishment. I want to accomplish something in life. Great. I get to my accomplishment. What is there? There's a wall. So what happens? You could get a little bit of help scaling the wall, but then you have to make a decision to jump. You have to make a decision to go, a decision to exert yourself. Rabbi Shimon Levi jumps. He runs to accomplishment. As soon as he runs, what happens? Something pulls him back. Because that's what happens when you see your Gan Eden in sight. Something always pulls you back. What happens when you pull back? Tempting, give up. Rabbi Shimon Levi says, I'm not giving up. He swears, I'm staying. So I'll say, now I need siyata d'shmaya. When do you get siyata d'shmaya? If you are a man of your word. Right? If you make commitments and you follow through on those commitments, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, you're committed to your success, I'll be committed to your success as well. Amar li havli sakinai. So now listen to this. So Rabbi Shimon Levi now is staying in Gan Eden. Rabbi said Rabbi Shimon Levi is given permission to enter into Gan Eden without ever having died, without ever having gone through the process of dying. That's the problem. He has the knife of the Malach HaMaves. Malach HaMaves says, fine, you're staying in Gan Eden, give me back my knife. So I'll say this is interesting. Rabbi Shimon Levi did not want to give back the Malach HaMaves' knife. He didn't want to give it back. Nafka Baskala, Baskal came out, Va'amrle, Hav Nehele, the Mitva Libriasa. So the Baskal came out. They will say it's like, Malach HaMaves says, give it back. Rabbi Shimon Levi says, no. Malach says, give it back. And what happens? The Baskal, right? The father comes out and says, give it back, right? Give it back. Why? Because the Malach HaMaves needs this for the rest of creation. Because the Gemara is highlighting over here is death. Death is part of the very fabric of life. Right? So ultimately the Malach HaMaves needs his knife back. Machriz Elio Kameh. So we'll say, so now that's part A of the story. Part A of the story. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is granted entry, and ultimately, again, the ability to live in Gan Eden, despite the fact of never having died. He entered into Gan Eden living. Machriz Elio Kameh. So we'll say Elio announces in front of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Penu makom lebar liboy, penu makom lebar livoy. Make space for Bar Levi. We'll say Bar Levi is Ben Levi, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Make space. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi makes it Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Azal ashkech Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, Davi Yosef atlas eser tachtaki fiza. So we'll say Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi finds who does he bump into? He finds Rashbi. You will say, can you imagine? This is Gan Eden. This is Gan Eden. Rabbi Shimon Levi comes and he finds Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai is sitting on 13 chairs of fine gold. Okay, obviously, whatever this means. Amrle, Atu bar Levi. So Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai says, is it true that you're Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi? Amrle hein. So Rabbi Shimon Levi says, yeah, I am. So Rabbi Rashbi says, Nira sakeshas biyamecha. Tell me, was there ever a rainbow? Did you ever see a rainbow during your lifetime? They both say, now understand, the rainbow, of course, is a sign, as beautiful as it is a sign of divine displeasure, right? Because remember again, the rainbow represents the covenant that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has with humanity not to destroy the world. So the rainbow comes out when HaKadosh Baruch Hu was tempted to destroy the world, but abstains from doing so because of the covenant. The rainbow comes out. We have a Masorah that in a generation where there is an outstanding tzaddik, you'll never see a rainbow. You'll never see a rainbow because the schus of the tzaddik goes ahead and upholds the generation or protects the generation. So Rashbi asks Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, tell me, was there ever a rainbow in your time? So Amar Lehein, he said, yes, there was. Im kain iyata bar Levi. So incredible. Rashbi says, if that's the case, then you're not Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Because I know for a fact that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi's generation, there was never a rainbow. Velohi, the Gemara says, what's going on over here? The lo havi midi, elasavar lo ischazek tivusa lenafshay. We'll say in reality, there was never a rainbow during the days of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. That's how great this schus was. But he felt awkward answering the question because he felt if he would have said there was no rainbow, that would have been like him taking credit for himself. And in his humility, he did not feel that was appropriate. Which I will say, by the way, is something very interesting because what you see from this Gemara is that perhaps it is permitted to go ahead and change the truth to preserve, out of humility. Out of humility, that if one is asked the question whose true answer, could be perceived as a display of arrogance, perhaps one is permitted to go ahead and temper the answer a little bit or alter the answer a little bit out of reasons for humility. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa. So I'll say, so that's the end of the Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi story. So I'll say, so much more to say about it, but dramatic nevertheless. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa, Shoshvine Hava. So let's listen to this. This is so interesting. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa, Shoshvine. Rashi says, Shoshvine is Ohavo v'ragil etzlo malach hamaves. He was best friends with the malach hamaves. Best friends, right? Not acquaintances, not hey, what's up, not we hang out, right? Shoshvine. And again, like, Ohavo, they loved each other, v'ragil etzlo, and they spent a lot of time. I have no idea how that friendship developed, right? But nevertheless, quite interesting. So I'll say, so what happened? Now here we go. Ki havan kan necha nafshe, amr le malach hamaves, zil avale rusein. So same thing, Rabbi Chanina bar Papa is about to die, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu says to the malach hamaves, go to Rabbi Chanina bar Papa and do whatever he wants. Grant him, so to speak, whatever his last request is. Az lagabe v'schazei Malach HaMaavos comes. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa Amrlei Shavki tlasin yom adin hadr talmudoi. We'll say this is beautiful. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa says, okay, here's my request. Give me 30 days. Give me 30 days so that I could go ahead and review my learning. Why I will say, listen to how beautiful it is. The Amri, because Chazal teach us, Ashrei mi sheba lekan v'talmudo biyado. I'll say, what a beautiful, beautiful Gemara. Praiseworthy is the person who comes here and his learning is in his hand. They will say, do you know why it's so important to come to learn every single morning? Do you know why it's so important? Because after 120, when we come to Shem, we come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we come to the Beis Din Shel Mala. So ultimately, again, what are the Malachim going to sing when we arrive? What are they going to sing? They're going to sing, Ashrei Misha Balakan, praiseworthy is the person who comes here. Talmudo, his Talmud, his Daf Yomi, his learning is biyado. That this was a person, day in and day out, 7 days a week, no matter what was happening in life. This was a person who learned Torah. That's what the Malachim sing when such a person comes to Gan Eden. Absolutely incredible. Now I will say here, Rabbi Chanina bar Papa was understanding it a little bit differently. He was understanding Talmudo biyado means someone who doesn't just have learning, but what? Has a significant comprehension of that which they have learned. So he said, give me 30 days before I die. I want to go ahead and chazar. I want to review all of my learning. Shavki Malach HaMaavos gave it to him. After 30 days, Malach HaMaavos comes back. Amrale ichvi li duchtai. So now what does Rabbi Chanina bar Papa say to Malach HaMaavos? Malach HaMaavos, do me a favor. I'd like to see my portion in Olam Haba. I'd like to see my portion in Gan Eden before I die. So Malach HaMaavos says, Amrale lechaye. Sure, no problem. Amrale havli sakinach d'mamevisli ba'archa. So he says to Malach HaMaavos, give me your knife, because I don't want you to accidentally kill me on the way. So we'll say, listen to this. Amrale ki chavreich ba'is leme'avid. So Malach HaMaavos says, get me once, fine. Right? Fool me once. You think I'm going to fall for that again? You're going to do to me what your buddy Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi did? Amrale, I see Sefer Torah. V'chazi mi'ika midi d'kasev bei delo kamaisei. We'll say, listen to this. Ultimately, again, so he says to the Malach HaMaavos, bring a Sefer Torah, and ultimately, again, show me, is there anything in this Sefer that I have not performed? So we'll say, so it's interesting, it's a little bit of machlokes here, exactly what Rabbi Chanina bar Papa was trying to say. Either way, he was saying to the Malach HaMaavos, I'm a trustworthy person, and I'm not going to steal your knife, or ultimately, again, he's preparing himself for entry into Gan Eden. And he says to Malach HaMaavos, I'm curious to know where I'm holding. Bring a Sefer Torah. And you tell me, you're my friend, we're friends. Tell me, is there anything in here that I have not fulfilled? Amrlei, mi ichrachis beba'alei rasan v'sakta b'Torah. So it says, interesting. So the Malach HaMaavos says, listen, I have to tell you, the one thing you never did is, did you ever become close with Ba'alei Ra'asan, people who had Ra'asan, and allowed the Torah to protect you? So what he was saying was he was mentioning what Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi used to do. So I will say, so it's interesting, why does the Malach HaMaavos bring this up, right? First of all, this is not Kasav Batorah. So Rashi understands it over here. If you look, Shai Mesaken benafsho lechabet es haTorah. When Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, I will say, let's go back for just a moment. When Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi would go ahead and come close to people with Ra'asan, right? Put himself in the same proximity and rely on the greatness of Torah to protect him. But why did Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi do that? So the Malach HaMaavos now explains that Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi was doing it to enhance Kavod Torah, to show people that Torah not only changes you as a person, but it protects you. It protects you. He was trying to show people the power of Torah. He sees what the Malach HaMaavos is saying to Rabbi Chanina bar Papa is, yet you led a great life, but did you ever show other people the greatness of Torah like Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi did? Which is incredible, Rabbi will say. In other words, that it's not enough in life to do the right thing. I have to become an ambassador of Torah as well. And in that capacity as an ambassador of Torah, I show others the greatness of Torah as well. It's so profound. So I'll say, so bottom line is, Rabbi Chanina bar Papa gets to see his portion but doesn't get to stay. He comes back down. comes back down. Now he comes back to this world, he dies. When he died, Rabbi said, this is incredible. There was a pillar of fire. There was a pillar of fire that ultimately, again, prevented anyone from coming close to his funeral bier. Ugemiri, and we have a Masorah that will say this fire only comes down for a unique person once or twice a generation. So ultimately Rabbi Alexandri tried to get close to the funeral bier, because we'll say now here was the problem. As incredible as it was that there was a fire surrounding the coffin, the casket of Rabbi Chanina Bar Papa. What was the problem? They couldn't bury him. Because there was a fire surrounding him. So Amar Asay B'Shvil Kvod Chachamim Lo Ashkach. So he said to the fire, right? Stop the fire in the cover of the Chachamim. Fire didn't stop. Asay B'Shvil Kvod Avicha. Do it in the merit of your father. Chanina Bar Papa Lo Ashkach. Asay B'Shvil Kvod Atzmicha. Again, Rabbi Chanina Bar Papa, do it in honor of your own cover. We can't bury you unless the fire abates. Istalik. Ultimately, again, the fire stopped. Amra Abaye Vafuke de lo kaima filu os achos. So we'll say, why did the fire come? What's the point of the fire? So first of all, the fire itself just seems to be a display of kavod. The Gemara says there's another reason, that people who are unlearned should not come close to the casket. Right? That the idea was he was such a great Talmid Chacham that unlearned people shouldn't come close to the casket. Amar Rav Bar Masna Lafuki Mimar de lo isle ma'aka leigre. This is great. Rav Bar Masna said to him, like to exclude someone like you, who even though he was a Talmid Chacham, right, Abaye was a Talmid Chacham, he said, Abaye, you don't have a fence on your roof. Both say there's a halacha that says you're supposed to have a fence on your roof. So Rav Bar says, Abaye, forget about unlearned people. Look at you. You don't have a fence on your roof. Right? The Torah says you're supposed to put a fence on your roof. So the Gemara says, Velohi, this wasn't true. Mihava hava. Abaye did have a fence. Vahi shaita hi dishaj zeka. Ultimately, again, in that moment, it happened to be a wind blew down Abaye's fence. Right? We'll say, so again, there's so much to say on this, but we haven't even gotten to today's daf yet. We'll say, so again, I just want to point out, like these exchanges are so profound. They're not just here happenstance, but again, we'll have to save it. So we'll say, why? It's interesting. Ra'ason apparently doesn't occur in Bavel. Why not? They eat beets. And they go ahead and they drink beer that's made from shrubs with thorns. Why is no sara'as in Bavel, no leprosy in Bavel? They eat beets. They go ahead and they drink beer. And they bathe in the Euphrates. So ultimately, again, it seems to be the Gemara attributed certain health qualities to their diet in Bavel. Beautiful. Hadrun alach hamadir sitchabosai mazel tov. Today's daf is ayin ches, right? 7 days. So let's say, so here we go. Says the Mishnah. It's okay, it's short. Ha'isha shnaflo nechasim achlo tisare. So also listen to this. Now, this is really actually a fascinating sugya. We're going to discuss now about a woman's ability to sell off property. So we'll say, so very quickly, we know that there are two different types of property that a woman brings into marriage. There's what's called nichsei tzon barzel, nichsei malog. Nichsei tzon barzel, ultimately, again, is property that she owns that is valued, it's appraised, and the appraisal is written into the ksuva, and the husband guarantees that appraised amount. In the event of death or divorce, she's paid out if the property is there and it's still worth the same thing, fine, otherwise she's paid out the same amount. Then there's nichsei malog. Nichsei malog is not included in the ksuva. It's property that the woman holds, that the woman owns. Ultimately, again, the husband gets to use peros. Right? He gets peros of everything. He gets to use peros. Here we go. Supposed to listen to this. Rachel goes ahead and inherits property before Erison, before she even ever met Shimon, right? Reuben, So she goes in and she inherits property. So Modim Beishamei Beisilal, Shemocheres Vinosenes Vekayim. Everyone agrees. So I'll say that's what? That Allah says she has the right to buy and sell that property as she pleases. Now, obviously, what we're talking about over here is in marriage. She inherited it before she got married, right? Once she gets married, she has the ability to go ahead and buy it, and sell it or give it away as she pleases. So the Gemara says, "Naflu lo mishenis arsa." What happens if she inherits property once Erisin occurs? After Erisin, so now right. So after Erisin, what's the halacha? Beishamai or timkar. Beis Shammai says she has the right to go ahead and sell it. Now, we'll say sell it when? during Erusin. As Rashi points out, Timkar, Ba'oda Arusa. Ba'oda Arusa. So she inherits it during Erusin. She has the ability to sell it during Erusin. Beishama Timkar, Beisila Omrim Lo Timkar. Beisila says, no, you can't sell it. You can't sell it. However, Elu v'elu modim, Shemachra v'nasna kayim. But I will say, even Beis Hillel, who says that during Erusin she shouldn't sell it, agrees that what? If you did sell it, then what? It works. It works. Sell is valid. Good. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda, Amru Chacham Rabbi Gamliel. So Rabbi Yehuda says, the Chacham said before Rabbi Gamliel. I don't understand. Ho'il v'zacha be'isha lo yiska b'nechasim. So we'll say, so listen to this. The Chacham said before Rabbi Gamliel, it doesn't make sense. In other words, we'll say, during Erusin, once Erusin occurs, Reuven, so to speak, is already quote-unquote acquired Rachel. If he's acquired her, doesn't he acquire her property as well? And if he's acquired her property, then what? Rabbi say, then what? She should not be permitted to sell it. And if she does sell it, the sale shall be void. So Amar Lahem, so listen to this. So Rabbi Gamliel responded, Ala chadashim anu boshim. Rabbi saying, now listen to this. Rabbi Gamliel essentially says like this. I don't understand why a woman can't sell property during Nisuin. Right? Rabbi Gamliel says, listen, she owns the title of the property. So during Nisuin, I think she should be able. That's what it means, ala chadashim. On this new ruling, Rashi says, shenaflu lam mishanises. Right? On this new ruling, on property that she acquires during Nisuin, I don't understand why she can't sell. Anu boshim, we are embarrassed. Rashi says over Anu boshim, ma ra'u chachamim lomar imachra v'nasna haba motzi mi'al kuchos. So we're going to see in just a moment that if she sells property during Nisuin, there's an opinion that says that the husband could extract the property from the purchaser. So Rabbi Gamliel says, I don't understand that. Because I think even during Nisuin, she should be able to sell the property. It's her property. So Allah chadashim anu boshim. You're asking me about Erusin? So I'll say, so Rabbi Gamliel says, talking to the wrong guy. Because I think even during Nisuin, she should be able to sell, certainly during Erusin. Okay, so we'll say, now let's go weiter. Nafalo Mishani says, if she inherited property during Nisuin, Elu v'elu modim, both Beisham and Beisil agree, Shemachra v'nasna, that if she went ahead and she sold the property or she gifted it away, Shabal motzi miyat halakuchos, that the husband has the ability to extract the property from the lakuchos, ultimately again from purchasers. So the Gemara says, Ad shelo nises v'nises. What happens if she acquired the property before Nisuin, and then she had Nisuin, and she sold off the property? Rabbi Gamliel Omer, imachra v'nasna kayim. Rabbi Gamliel says, if she sold it, it works. It works. Rabbi Chanina ben Akiva. So Akavia, sorry, Rabbi Chanina ben Akavia said, Rabbi Gamliel. They said before Rabbi Gamliel, Ho'il v'zacha b'isha lo yiske ben chasim. Rabbi Gamliel, how could that be? Once a husband acquires his wife, doesn't he automatically acquire her property? So how could she sell off anything after Nisuin? So Amar Lahem, again Rabbi Gamliel says, Ala chadashim anu boshim. So again, Rabbi Gamliel says, I don't understand. I think even during Nisuin itself, ultimately again, even property that she acquired during Nisuin itself could be sold off by her. Something that she acquired before Nisuin you're asking me about? To which the Gemara says as follows. Rabbi Shimon Cholek bein nechasim l'nechasim. So I'm sorry. Rabbi Shimon Cholek bein nechasim l'nechasim. Rabbi Shimon says there's a difference between different types of properties. He says nechasim hayiduin laba'al lo timkar. Any property that is known by the husband knows about, she should not sell. V'machra v'nasna batal. And again, if he knows about it, and she sold it or gifted it away anyway, ultimately the transaction is void. She'enon yodin laba'al. But if there's property that the husband does not know about, ultimately lo simkar. Ultimately, again, she should not sell it. V'machra v'nasna kayim. And ultimately, again, if she does sell it, right, she shouldn't sell it. But if she does sell it, b'diavad, it works. Good. So we'll say that's the Gemara. So just to point out, we have a couple of different cases. Case one in the Mishnah, again, a quick chazara. Case one in the Mishnah was what? She is acquiring property before Erusin. She acquires property before Erusin. Everyone agrees that's what? She can do whatever she wants. Okay? Case one. Case two, she acquires property during Erusin and wants now to sell during Erusin. What happens there? Beis Shammai says sell. Beis Hillel says don't sell. But everyone agrees that what? That if she did sell, ultimately again, it works. It works. Okay, so they introduced Rabbi Gamliel over here, fine. Third case, she acquires property during Nisuin. during Nisuin, everyone agrees that what? That if she sells it, halacha l'maisa, husband could extract the property from the purchasers. Ultimately, again, if she acquires something before Nisuin and then ultimately does Nisuin and sells it off, Rabbi Gamliel says if she did it, ultimately the transaction stands. Good. Says a lot more, but those are the court cases. Says the Gemara. Maishna reisha delo pligi, maishna seifa de pligi. So we'll say, why is it in the first case? Remember again, what was the first case? First case was she acquires property when? Before Erisin. Before Erisin, and ultimately sells it off, which sells it off when? So when is she selling it off? When is she selling it off? During Erisin, right? So in that case, Beis Shammai will agree that it's fine. Transaction works. That's the Reisha. So we'll say, so the Gemara says, why is the Reisha that ultimately, again, no one argues, but in the Seifa? Now we'll say, now what's the Seifa? The Seifa in this case is, she inherits property during Erisin and sells it. In that case, what's the halacha? Beis Shammai says, you could sell it, it's okay. Beis Hillel says you should not sell it. So why do they agree in the Reisha, not agree in the Seifa? Rabbi Yanai, Reisha bischusa nafla, Seifa bischuso naflo. It's very simple. Both say in the Reisha case, when did she acquire the property? When did she acquire it? Before Erisin. Before Erisin, it's totally hers. There's no other claim on it. The Seifa, after Erisin, she already is, quote unquote, acquired by her husband. If she's acquired by her husband, then Lamaisa, again, he has a schus in that property. He has a schus in that property, to which the Gemara says, Im bischuso nafla, ki machra v'nasna machayim. If that's the case of us, remember again, what's the halach in the Seifa, right? So she acquires the property during Erisin, right, and sells it off. So there, Beis Shammai says it's okay. Beis Hillel says she shouldn't sell it. Now we're saying, why does Beis Hillel say she shouldn't say it? Because her husband has a schus in that property. Well, if her husband has a schus in the property, we'll say, then what should be the status of the sale of the gift? What should be the status of the sale of the gift? Void, because the husband. But yet, what's the halacha? Even Beis Hillel agrees that b'diavad it works. To which the Gemara says, "El reisha vaday b'schusa naflo." We'll say the reisha, it's all hers. It's all hers. Seifa emar b'schusa, emar b'schuso. So we'll say, here's the real issue. The real issue is there's a lack of clarity as to the status of property during Erisin. Right? On one hand, it's hers. On one hand, it's his. Therefore, lechatchila lo simkar ve'machra nasna kayim. Therefore, we'll say lechatchila. We say she should not sell it, but b'di'evet, if she did sell it, ultimately the sale stands. Good. Am Rabbi Yehuda, am Rabbi Gamliel. Ibai lehu. So we'll say now again. Remember, Rabbi Yehuda comes before Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Yehuda comes before Rabbi Gamliel, right? And this is in the first part of the Mishnah. So we'll say this was after this was after the case of Erisin, right? So we have the case of Erisin. She inherits property. She inherits property during Erisin, sells it off during Erisin. Beis Shammai says okay. Beis Hillel says no, don't sell it. But everyone agrees that b'di eved, if she did it, the sale works. Rabbi Yehuda comes before, right? So Rabbi Yehuda says that the Chachamim said before Rabbi Gamliel, I don't understand why this works. Why should such a sale work? Since the husband acquires his wife, he should also what? Acquire all of her property, which means that even b'di eved, sounds like even b'di eved, the sale should be void. So now the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda, Ibailu, Rabbi Yehuda lechatchila o adi eved. Rabbi say, is Rabbi Yehuda arguing lechatchila or even b'di eved? Look at Rashi very quickly. Rashi lechatchila pligi va'amri amay mocheres lechatchila beishamai hoil v'zacha beisha she'er salo yiska b'nechaseh ava b'di eved modi ki Beis Hillel. So it says Rabbi Yehuda is saying, I don't understand. Why does Beis Shammai allow a lechatchila sale? Is that what Rabbi Yehuda is arguing on? Oh, dilma di eved nami pligi u'bay l'meimar machra batal. So we'll say, what is Rabbi Yehuda coming along to say? Is he coming to say, I don't understand why Beis Shammai lechatchila allows such a sale during Erisin? Is that what he's arguing on? But he agrees that b'di'eved the sale works. Or is he saying, no, he's arguing on Beis Hillel? I don't understand b'di'eved, why should such a sale work at all? That's what he's asking. So Tashma, Amud Beis, Tashma, Tisanya, Am Rabbi Yehuda, Am Rabbi Gamliel, Hoil v'zu ishto v'zu ishto. So let's remember again, what does Rabbi Yehuda say? Rabbi Yehuda says like this, since ultimately again, since hoil v'zu ishto, right? Remember this later on in the Mishnah, right? Since this is his wife, v'zu machra batal, avzu machra batal. If the sale is going to be void during Nisuin, so the sale should be void during Erisin as well. Our Rabbi Gamliel says, ala chadashim anu boshim. Ela sha'atem megalgalin lenas hayishanim. So Rabbi Gamliel said, I don't understand the first halacha by Erisin. Now you're coming to introduce a new halacha by Nisuin. Shmamina di eved ka'amar shmamina. See from here that what? That Rabbi Yehuda is really arguing ultimately again, not on Beis Shammai, but he's arguing on the Bidi Eved of Beis Hillel. Incredible. So Gemara says this: Tanya, Amar Rabbi Chanina ben Akavia. So lo kach heshivan Rabbi Gamliel lachachamim. This is not how Rabbi Gamliel answered the chachamim. Ela kach heshivan lo. Right? Ela kach heshivan. This is how he responded. So the Gemara says, lo imamartim ben Esua shekein bailo zakai b'mitzias masiyadel. So we'll say, listen to this. So comes along Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel says, listen, guys, I could come around to the case of Nisuin, right? I could come around to the idea that during Nisuin, if a woman goes ahead and sells off her property, that such a sale should be void. I could wrap my head around that. Why? Because during Nisuin, a husband has heightened rights within his wife. Namely, the mitzvah, if she finds something, the ma'asiyah with her earnings, hafaras that he could annul her vows. So again, so I can understand that in that case, why during Erisin, if she goes ahead and sells off property, he could void the sale. But by Erisin, a husband has none of these rights. So just like a husband has none of these rights, he shouldn't have a right to block a property sale as well. Amrulo Rebbe, Amrulo Rebbe, Machra Achlo Nises. So the Gemara says Achlo Nises, Nises va'achakach Machra. Mahu. All right, boss, we'll have to stop over here for today. I'll say, so again, don't worry, we're on track. We're on track in Mir Hashem. We'll be fine. It's a short daf. Sometime, Mir Hashem. I'll say, again, you have to admit, the first part of the daf was too good to go. Okay, so we'll stop. Also, just a reminder, Michael Leibowitz is sitting Shiva right across the street. They had a little bit of difficulty getting a minyan yesterday. They start slichos in just a few moments from now. They start, again, it's shortened slichos. Not that that's to entice anyone. Shorten slichas because of a base avel. So they start chakra at the same time, 6:45 as well. All right, boss, shkoyach.